We're back then today with another developer stream recap for Last Epoch. I did miss the developer stream last week. This was purely for the reason that it was my old man's 80th birthday, so I had an awful lot going on. But going forward, as long as I don't have anything like that happening when the stream is due, then I will look to do a recap of all these different streams. Now, in this video anyway, some of the questions and answers we've got some information on the 1.1 release window, so we get a rough window for the release of the next big update, information on future cycles, a cow level, a PlayStation release, we see an image of a new unique ring, details on an engine upgrade, uber rares, new enemies, there's a question around is Last Epoch dead, and then finally a roadmap. So there is a whole lot in this video. Now if it's helpful, please do take the time to hit a like, share and subscribe button. But let's now dive in.
Will you be able to add a creature taming skill for every class? So every can try tame any mob and able to skill and gear them as true pet. So I think what this question is asking is, are we going to add minion skills to every class? For primarily probably talking about Mage, how Mage doesn't really have any proper minion skills. Maybe, but only if there's like a really good reason to. One of the core elements of design we have, one of our design principles, design pillars, is class identity, and every class that does have minions has them in a very intentional way that is unique to that class. So like, there's something special about the minions for every class that has minions. Necromancer, they're a tool to throw away and be used. Primalists, they are companions that, you know, when they down, they get rezzed, and you usually have a very small number of them. They're intentional. Forge Guard, they're all focused thematically around reanimating equipment, and so they're all tied to your gear very closely. And then Falconer, it's the one Falcon. It can't die, it can't be hurt. It's more of an extension of the player than a minion itself, really. And so you've got these like clear minion archetypes that each of the classes that have minions work with. And then kind of one of the things that gives Mage an identity in that landscape is that it doesn't have minions. So it would have to be like a really clear design path, design reason to be adding minions to Mage. It's not impossible. We've considered doing it. We came so close to doing it with Ringmaster. Like, so close. Ringmaster was almost a pet class. We have no plans to make Mage a pet class at the moment, and any more pet classes we do add will be specifically because it makes sense for that character. It's something that we want to add to the game with that class, not just to give it so that all of them have the chance to do it. Do you have a date for 1.1 approx? I don't, not specifically. So what is it? Let's work it out. It's 3 to 4 months from 1.0 launch. So 1.0 launch was February 21st. So somewhere between May 21st and June 21st will be our patch window that we're targeting. I personally expect it to be on the latter half of that. Based on like how much info we've released about it so far. Because if it was going to be in the first half of that, we'd already be in hype week almost, you know? Not quite, but pretty well. Do you have set plans for the next coming cycles? How far out would you say you have cycles planned at the moment? I know the, like, tentpole features of 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. I know likely the tentpole features of 1.4 as well. And you know, things shift and change as we go, but the majority of stuff is pretty well planned for those. We're now in this, like, we're planning this like rolling cycle content. We're designing and developing like art assets out ahead of time, that sort of stuff. Like we're into this like long-term development cycle rolling process now. Any plans for some meme levels? For example, cow level, Exalted Mage birthday party crash. We've had many ideas for things like that. There's a few that I would love to do. I don't know how. We haven't got the okay to make one yet. Let's put it that way. think we're probably looking more towards like real content first. Don't want to take away from the main stuff yet. There are like little secrets and Easter eggs that we do slip into the game. Is Wazzy coming in? I don't know if we ever actually settled on that or not. I know it's not available for 1.1. I can tell you that much. I'd like to though. I think we're at a point where, you know, if we can find the time to add it, I think it would be a good thing. It's a pretty significant addition. This is another one of those things I was talking about earlier about like, oh, just add it in, it's easy. Well, yes, but actually it's extremely hard. So you know, I'd like to, but more questions. Please come to the PlayStation. Maybe. I'd like to. I'd be surprised if it's something we never did. We're still in the figure out which platforms we want to expand to phase right now, but we know that there's like enough of an interest on other platforms that there's going to be some good reason to expand. Just don't know when or how, or what that's going to look like exactly. We don't really have plans for a hideout system at the moment. We kind of want we there's sort of this like you put people in hideouts and then less people show up in towns and the game feels kind of like it loses some of its aliveness. Any plans to rework, update some of the older classes passives tree to be up to par with the new classes? Warlock, Falconer. Warlock has like every node with a rank 5 bonus passive with class like Shaman who have very few. Yeah, we are updating the passive trees for every mastery slowly over time. It's not a like a complete top to bottom rework of every one of them or anything like that, but there are changes all over the place, and we are slowly adding in more of those threshold nodes to trees as we see fit for them. This is a ring, if you couldn't tell. Thank you very much for the sub. Yeah, we're with several gifted subs there. 3 gifted subs. Congrats to anyone who got one of those. Rolling. Sorry, that was a little loud. Where would you stand on a live dungeon with a boss that has an insane HP bar that would require a full cycles cooperating to whittle it down individually or in a 4-man group, which would have damage threshold marks, which provides server-wide buffs in a cycle? The entrance could be the same as keys where you have to play to find them. So like a I think events like that are super cool. I think we have to be careful. One thing we've kind of always said is the intention is to have all the content be possible to complete solo and offline. Like at least eventually, maybe not right away or it might take you a while and all sort of stuff, but like eventually at least have it be doable offline and solo. And we've kind of bent the rule a little bit, like there's now trading stuff and you can't do that offline. So it's sort of like, it's not a hard, fast rule, but like we try where we can. I think community events like this are really cool. And I think this is one of the things that Helldivers, as people were mentioning it earlier, I think this is one of the things that they did really well. Is this like community event focused, like game development, like what's available in the world changes with the community and their actions. I think that was super smart on their part. But they built the game systems with that in mind right away, right from square one. That was part of the plan. They knew they were doing this. Like it was not a system they added on after the fact. And I think that it would be dramatically harder to add it on after the fact. Not impossible. Is the CT program people going to get a look at Pinnacle bosses like they did with 1.0? Also left you spoilering up yet. Appreciate it. Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah, we were talking about a CT build going out at some point here. It's not quite ready for that yet. It's close. How far along is the Unity engine upgrade? What are the biggest changes from a programming point of view? There's not a lot of changes from a programming point of view. I mean, like there's tons of little things that change. Like, you know, whenever there's a software upgrade like this, it'll be like, well, you know, like this command is deprecated and now it's this command instead, and it's like, okay, that doesn't actually change anything for 99% of use cases. But it's just like, oh, you gotta learn a different word. You like, you know, like you use dot active or dot is active instead of dot active. And, you know, it's a function call instead of a variable lookup. You know, like there's little things like that that change. Like, it's basically the same thing, anyways. And I never know if you actually have to go down there to trigger that or not, but I always do. Anyways, yeah, like there's it's progressing. Development is still occurring on the old version of Unity. Takes a long time to do an engine upgrade. Any plans to add new super rare items? This is an interesting question. On one hand, we very frequently get requests for super rare items. But I think the underlying, and I don't know if this is the case, but I think the underlying request is actually, can we have super rare items that I have a really easy time finding? Because we so frequently get, like, you need to have super rare items, but I also need to have a reliable way to find that super rare item. And they work so strongly against each other, and so we're still trying to find a good balance for something like that. One of the ways we tried to do that was by having varying degrees of that item. So like a super rare unique that can have LP that's even super rarer, you know, and where the regular versions you can expect to reliably get it if you work for it, but the super rare LP versions you need to get lucky to get type thing. And it's I think that the same rough path that we'll continue on. But here's a cool teaser. Oh, that's another question. Once this is up. Alright, it would be also great being able to disassemble Legos and be able to use the mats. Let's say 1,000 to add 1 LP to an item. We have no intention of having a deterministic flat way to add LP to an existing unique. More questions. What do you say to people who claim there's no point in pushing past 250 corruption? How different is the drop rate actually the deeper you go? I mean, there is a reduced, like you get less increase to your drop rate as you go higher and higher in corruption. So like the difference in drop rate between corruption 100 and 200 is a bigger jump in drop rate than between 1000 and 1100. I think that if you're there was a post that went out a few weeks ago that got a lot of attention, that tried to highlight the differences in drop rate based on corruption, that had some issues in methodology for the experiment that were uncovered in the comments section. But unfortunately, most of the information gets pulled from the main post, not the comment section. The game's not designed to be played at 4-digit corruption, so we don't expect people to go that high. So we don't. There is less of an incentive to get that high based on drop rate numbers. Like there's no nothing unlocks at that point. Like, so at 300 corruption, I think, is the last point that, like, something unlocks. I think it's 300. It might only be 200, actually. I think it's 300, though. So, like, there's a tangible, like, break point that happens at 300 for specific things unlocking. It is a smooth curve for increased item rarity. During a stream with Kyle, he mentioned a secret end of time. Do you know if it has been found yet? It has been found. It was found very shortly after us saying this. I expected it to take longer. Perry the Pig was all over that, as he'd previously been investigating that already, because he found the sound files that went with it. And the little clues we added in was enough to push him in the right direction to find the rest of it, I think. Basically, there is a Spriggan character that you can move to End of Time from the Lightless Arbor, and there's some cool little voice lines that happen there. Weird question: how does the team deal with the slow decline of a cycle? All seasonal games have this huge influx of gamers at the start, then a slow decline. Is this nerve-wracking for devs, and how do you feel you will judge the success or failure of a cycle? It doesn't have any impact on me whatsoever until people start, like you see the posts of that come out, and it's like, oh, game's dead, it's lost 90% of the player base, whatever, all that sort of stuff. Those posts are a little disheartening, because you're like, what if someone believes them? And it's like, it's fine if one person doesn't understand it, but like, if they manage to convince someone else by speaking really confidently, then it's a little frustrating. But like, it's doing exactly what we expected it to do. Like, exactly what we expected it to do. So I'm not concerned. There's no danger to the studio's longevity. We're gonna keep making the game. I think it's an awesome game. I think people are gonna come back and play Cycle 2, sorry. And I think that people will, like the player count will drop off again, and they'll go play something else. And I mean, if we're doing our job well and the stuff we're making is fun, they'll be back for Cycle 3, and that's great. All we can really do is make a fun game and hope people play it. It's as simple as it is for me, really. 2 questions: any plans for more class masteries? Will you do a roadmap, the next big updates, not with specific dates, but just a timeline of future content and what content will be? Roadmaps are really tricky things for us to do. We've been bitten by them before. I know we are. I think that a roadmap would be a really good thing to add back in, and I think we're able to take what we've learned about past ones to make these a little bit better. I'm hopeful that a roadmap will show up soon. Don't have any details for you though. I'm sorry.